Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today's topic is something which has been on my mind and something that I've just needed to remind myself to, especially like when things feel a lot, or you feel like there's a lot going on at the moment, or you just feel a bit like unsettled. I definitely feel like these are things that, or just tips or pieces of advice that have really helped me, that I've learned along the way, just to manage when things feel like a little bit too much. So essentially when our thoughts just feel like there's too much and they're kind of bouncing around so much and starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. I think like whatever might be going on in your life, like sometimes it's just things like kind of building up, or there's something like that you've been thinking about a lot, or like you might be even going through something that like might be affecting how you're feeling. So again, just a disclaimer, these are things that definitely help me like understand like why I might be feeling a bit overwhelmed. So I hope that these tips are sort of ways for you to understand, manage, and also like learn to like better deal with, and also feel more confident in like transforming these thoughts and understanding like what, like where they might be coming from and what you might need. I think that's also really important. So I just want you to know that like if you feel like your thoughts have been quite loud at the moment, or just feeling overwhelmed, you're not the only one who feels that way, and a lot of people do. And like we just sometimes don't have the space or like areas that we can like openly talk about this. So I hope this is a place that you can. And just remember that we're only human, and like things do pile up. It might be things from work, it might be things from home. So I think the kind of key things, even that I heard like from actually a couple of my friends recently, was like my brain can't switch off. And that got me thinking, like when we're jumping around between thoughts to thoughts, I don't know about you, but like I definitely sometimes get that feeling of like a little bit of anxiousness and like wondering, like, then I whatever tools that I've been using then help me ground myself back in and like understand it. But like sometimes it just happens, and sometimes you might think about the same thing like over and over, or there might be like something that makes these thoughts feel real. But one thing I want to just like reiterate here is that thoughts can feel real, but it doesn't mean that they're facts or that they're the truth. And also like having a thought like doesn't mean like it needs to be acted upon. Honestly, like transforming thoughts is something which I think we don't get taught this. I don't think they teach this in schools. Maybe they do now. But when I was at school, this definitely wasn't taught, like how to manage when, things are just, there's maybe a lot on your mind. Like what are the tools in place to help you understand what to do with that experience? So I really hope that we can, go into this a little bit more. But if we go into why our brain and our mind might be jumping around, or it feels loud, firstly, like your brain, it's like something that I found so interesting is your brain is trying to protect you, or trying to solve something, or trying to make sense of if there's uncertainty, like if something's uncertain at work or in a relationship, like you might be trying to figure out like what is going on, like and that's like our brain's natural tendency to like try and figure out and problem solve and see things from all the different angles. But again, that might be sort of a reason why we might be feeling like lost in those thoughts. And sometimes we also get stuck in a loop. Like there's a sort of process where you have like a thought that might create a bit of anxiety, that creates more thoughts, that creates more anxiety. So it's like a loop. And like sometimes like trying to figure it out like in the moment like doesn't always happen, and there's like things that we might need to do to help us like understand what to actually do with them. So the other kind of things is like why we might be feeling like we're having like a lot of thoughts, or just feeling like a bit overwhelmed, is our brain is under more background stress than we might even realize. Like our body and our mind like is obviously living each day, and like whatever, like if there's a health thing happening, or if there's like a stress maybe, or some sort of circumstance, these all contribute like obviously subconsciously and consciously to our like obviously mental and like physical well-being. And our thoughts like even though our mind might not feel that we're stressed, our body might be carrying that stress. So for example, like, you know, if you're uncertain or worried about the future, like, you know, we might be carrying that tension within us. There's also sometimes pressure to like have it all together. I think, like, especially in like my generation, it's like very much, yeah, like trying to like have this like stability, but also have like plan for the future. And it's like so many things happening while also living the now, while also dealing with the current like situation that you're in. So I think the other kind of build on that is what's been going on in the world. Like, so tough and so like, honestly, don't want to like, I want to go into it, but I also like want to just focus on this topic at this moment in time. But there's so many things happening in the world. Social media carries weight in terms of where your attention is being taken to, the fastness of scrolling. And I even saw something on Instagram which just concerned me greatly. It was like, I think you can have this thing where you can have auto scroll now, which means you don't even have to like use your finger to scroll through reels. And I was like, why on earth would they do that? And we know why, because they want to hook your attention, and there's building that tension within you, which a lot of these apps, social media apps, unfortunately do, which is why we feel maybe on edge a little bit more, or like going into that spiral of thoughts and thinking and worrying about things that aren't actually in our, like, we can't sadly physically make change in, like in some respects, right? And that makes us like more tense and more worried. So it's just, yeah, all the things that are happening that make us feel on edge. But overall, our brain is trying to figure it out and trying to protect us, which is, again, like something that we're trying to navigate and understand in today's world. The other thing is why our thoughts might feel like a lot is we don't really have a break anymore. I was thinking this the other day, like when we were younger, or like when I was younger, being bored was like so like normal, in the sense, like I remember like sitting at parties and like old like family parties when I was like younger, and I was like so bored. I think I had like, I don't know, like a little what do you call it, like a Walkman. I used to listen to music. I don't know what I was doing, like in a party, just listening to music by myself, loving life. But like, again, this was like me when I was just super bored, and you're like not you're just at that young age, right? And you're allowed to feel bored. Like, I didn't have a phone like back then, like I didn't have technology, and you know, like sometimes that actually I crave that feeling sometimes, like just sitting there and allowing ourselves to not be stimulated all the time. We're just constantly stimulated, which again is affecting us. And even just sitting quietly without having stimulation, or even going for a walk, experiencing the world around us without the need of like instant gratification or content, like I think that just like blows my mind, really. Like our mind is just being trained, or is now having to navigate so many different things. Like there's so many opinions, so much information. So I think basically what happens is our thoughts don't get the time to be processed like they used to, I guess. Or like maybe if you were like with pre-technology, or pre like the integration of technology so much, like you had that time. I don't know, it's just so different now. I think the other thing is like when you have quiet moments, sometimes that's when our brain likes to think so much. So for example, I'm sure we all have had this experience where you're lying in bed, you're ready to fall asleep, and then some thought happens about something that happened, and then you're like replaying the situation, and it's like your brain's like, now's the time to talk about this, and you're like, actually no, I don't want to think about this right now. So it's just like when you're trying to relax, I think sometimes it makes the thoughts a bit louder. And I think there's just something within that, like navigating what that means. And yeah, I think it's just important to realize that like sometimes they do come up, and so what can we do in those moments? And the other kind of bit is as to why like our brain is often stuck in a loop. Like, you know, we're trying to figure things out, like, but we don't have an answer. So there's kind of a loop that's happening. So you're thinking, you're analysing, you're maybe doubting that thought, and then rethinking, and then repeating. So these are sort of the things that are happening. And the other thing is, like, we might also be paying more attention to thoughts than we might realise as well. So that's why they might also feel loud. But another kind of way to look at this is like when you're thinking or maybe evolving or like changing the way you think about something, some things, like your thoughts might be trying to process that. Like if you're going through a transition phase or like outgrowing something, like your mind is more active because it's trying to make sense of something. That's kind of another perspective, but just a kind of gentle reminder really, and just a grounding truth that although your thoughts might feel loud for whatever reason I might have mentioned, there might be more, it doesn't mean it will be like this forever. And our mind does go through phases. Like things happen where, you know, things might feel louder, things might feel quieter, we might feel more calm. Like everything I want to kind of stress here is transient and not permanent, and everything is temporary. That is such a grounding thought. Like I know when I've maybe like had a night where I was overthinking something or worried about something, that's not forever. It's just a moment in time, and whatever tools I hope to share today can like help you navigate in those moments and realize that you do have like some sense of control. You can train your mind to navigate these thoughts and choose something different. That kind of choice element and intention element like really is so important. Because obviously we're constantly being stimulated. It's just something to think about. So instead of questioning like, why is my mind like this, or why am I overthinking, I think a nice thought would be like, what might my mind need right now to try and process this? Like coming out of it with understanding and compassion, like not thinking about the why is this happening, but what can I do to help? And I think that is a nice way to think about. So yeah, I think what we can go into next is like what can actually help and navigate when you navigate these kind of moments or experiences. So it doesn't have to be like a perfect thing, like it's going to happen like this, but more like just in real life, what can we do? So the first thing I want to share is stop fighting your thoughts. Essentially, sometimes we might think, again, if I go back to the lying in bed example and overthinking something, the thought might be, oh, I just need to stop thinking about this, need to stop thinking about this. I think you can reframe that and be like, this is just a thought. This is just a thought. Name the thought. So for example, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and just let it exist and let it pass. Because once our brain like can actually understand and like label something instead of ruminating on it, it gives that moment of clarity. And it's like when you stop giving things so much meaning and questioning and I need to do this and get rid of it, like when you stop giving it that meaning, that thought will lose that power essentially, because we're naming it, we're looking out and being like, I'm feeling this way, and you like we're able to just look at it from like an outsider looking in and stop like feeling so like deep into it, if that makes sense. The other sort of thing that I think really, really helps is grounding yourself in the present. So bringing ourselves back. I think this I love doing so much. So recently I just noticed like my breath was feeling a little bit more tense. Like I don't know why. I think it was more like just like overthinking some things. And the first kind of thing that I realized was about grounding yourself in the present and knowing and trying to understand like, yeah, how we can bring ourselves to the now. So what I do is it's like a little exercise. So it's 5 things that you can see. So if I'm doing this now, like I can see the camera, I can see outside my window, like whatever, I can see this mic that I'm holding, you know, like what can I actually see? Then you can think about 4 things you can touch. So for example, like I can touch this mic, I can touch like feel my hands, I can feel myself sitting on the chair. Like what can you touch? The next thing is 3 things you can hear. So, you know, like just give you an example about where you're sat right now, like what can you hear? And then 2 things you can smell to like engage that sense as well. Like, is it the smell of coffee in you? Or is it the candle? Whatever it is. And 1 thing you can taste. So I think doing that exercise, I don't know what it does, but it literally grounds you in the here and now. And I think that's so, so special. And I think getting out of your head just generally and into your body, it's so powerful. If you've never tried that exercise, I really, really recommend it, especially when you're noticing that, you know, hang on a minute, I can see it. And the biggest thing in all of this is awareness. and then intention. So I think intend and act that, this is something that we can do to help us in those moments. The next thing I wanted to talk about is getting out of your head and putting it down on paper. Journaling, I'm not as good as I would like to be, just being honest, but I used to be really on it and I felt the effects of it, and I want to go back to that feeling because I remember how much journaling helped me process like going through tough situations or just reflecting on the day. Like, it doesn't have to be always tough things, like bringing clarity. Like, when you write things down, it's not to fix them. I don't know what it does, but it releases that thought onto paper and creates a sense of just space and release. I think that's the best way I can describe it, is you're like, something about writing it down allows whatever noise or rumination to have some form of, I guess, like a way to be expressed and just understood in a different way. I can probably tell you, like, there's been times where I've journaled and I've had like revelations, because I'm like, this makes sense now, I understand this now, and it helps you also see patterns and also reduces any intensity that you might be feeling. So I think that's also something really key there. The next thing I want to say is about stop judging yourself when you're having those thoughts. So for example, like when you feel like there's a lot or things going on, you feel negative about yourself, like, don't allow that shame to make you feel like worse. It's normal to feel like this. It's normal to have these moments. You're only human. Like, our thoughts and our minds, like I mentioned at the start, are being pulled in so many directions, but no matter what the world tells you is trying to pull you in through social media apps, through constant content, you, like, under that like overall mind, you have control and you have the ability to just be compassionate and caring towards yourself, and know that you're only human and it will pass. I think the other thing is like, give your thoughts a time slot if this works. So I know that like when I'm at work and I'm like maybe thinking about something, I'm like, you know what, I then realize like, if it helps, it might help. I've tried it like here and there, like, be like, I'll come back to this like later. I don't need to think about this now. And like when you come back to it, it actually might, and when you focus back on the task that you're actually doing, it might not feel as urgent as it did in the moment. So I think something about that is really key. And the other sort of fundamental that I want to cover is like taking care of your nervous system. Your nervous system is just the kind of foundation for how we experience the world. Take care of your sleep, take care of your movement, fresh air, and just talking to loved ones and people you can trust and like care about you. Like, even little things, fresh air. Again, I don't know whether you feel this too, but when I know that I'm working and like I'm so like maybe so focused and like I can feel a bit like I need to like some space and some fresh air, like going and getting that fresh air does something, like releases tension and gives you space to think clearly. So I highly recommend that. And just remember, like, the other kind of area of all of this is just realizing that we have the power to reframe how we feel. And instead of asking like, why am I feeling like this, just remember like, what is my mind trying to protect me from right now, or what is my mind trying to understand right now. I think that will shift you from the element of fear and like anxiousness to a place of understanding. Again, like another tip I can really share that's something that worked with me is think of yourself like a friend, like who you are. Like, what would a friend you deeply care about and love, like what would they need to hear? And that in itself is such a thing, because you live with you. Like, yes, like you are you, but you live and you live in your home that is you, and your body and your mind. So I think remembering that, like, you can like give it like perspective and zoom out a bit, I think is really, really helpful. So I think just to remind yourself at the end of this video now is just remember that if your thoughts feel a lot right now and you might be feeling quite tense, like, you don't need to fix everything. Nothing needs to be solved immediately. It can like take time, and sometimes taking time is really, really special and helpful. And your mind will ruminate, and it doesn't need to be silent all the time. Like, it can't be silent all the time. Like, I can't remember the stat how many thoughts you have in a day, but you're going to have thoughts. So it's just letting them be there and holding space, I think, is the biggest tip I can give as well. Is things need time and space to be processed. So just remember that. And you also don't need to follow and choose and like go after every thought that's happening. Just sometimes, like I said before, thoughts happen and we don't need to always engage with them, even though we think like our brain wants us to. We don't have to. Like, there's a choice that can be made, and you can choose whether to go down that or not. And I'm learning that, still learning that. Again, we weren't given these skills when we were younger, unless like you might have been, but most of us haven't been given these skills, right? And it's stuff that we can teach ourselves. So just remember that slowly and gently your mind can learn. Like, it doesn't need to be loud all the time, and that we know that our thoughts exist and we can notice them, but we're not them. And yeah, it just means that, just a reminder that you have more control than you think in these situations. And yeah, and it's okay, because you're only human and it's just part of the experience. But just giving yourself compassion and care, and knowing that this will pass and you have more control than you think, essentially. So yeah, thank you so much for listening to today's video. I think there was a lot in here, but I really hope it was helpful and useful, especially if like there's something on your mind, or you've been maybe worrying about something and kind of going into that spiral, or even if there's just some things coming up here and there, whatever it is. Yeah, I just genuinely hope that this has been helpful for you. So yeah, let me know in the comments or drop me a message, if anything resonated, and I'd love it if you would subscribe. So thank you so much. And I genuinely hope these are helpful conversations. I just wish we talked about this more, and yeah, I think it's just stuff that I love talking about with friends, so this feels like that. So yeah, I appreciate you listening, and I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.